session I had at the Crystal Visions Market in Auckland on the weekend, and some really interesting hands. I'm going to show you some handprints today of some photographs of hands of some really interesting hands that I encountered during the day. Okay, I'm going to go straight to that actually, because that's probably the easiest thing to do. Let me have a get the share screen up. Boom. And what we want to look at is that one. There we go. Cool. All right. So the first handprint I want to look at is this woman who came to me first. Extraordinary woman and Maori woman. 9 whorls and 1 double loop. Now, as we know, whorls are much more commonly found in the hands of Maori people than they are in Europeans. Europeans tend to have about 20 to 23% of whorls. Maori have more like 60 to 70% whorl in their population. So whorls are far more common amongst the Maori population. And she's got 9. So she's actually got more whorls than you'd expect to find in a person of Maori ancestry, which is quite extraordinary on its own. There was a really good conversation talking with her about that and about how whorls are different and the cultural differences between Europeans and Maori, how Maori culture was prior to the European colonization. And of course, Orara Tiratanga is one of the most important concepts for Māori, and Orara Tiratanga translates roughly as sovereignty. And it's the issue of sovereignty which is at the basis of all the argument and debate on Te Tiriti Te Oto Waitangi, which was the Treaty of Waitangi signed in 1840, and all the conflicts that have emerged since then, particularly focusing around the misunderstanding or misapprehension or misapplication by the Europeans of this concept of sovereignty, or Rara Tiratanga. She's a very unusual woman. She knew that she was a very unusual woman, and very bendy thumb, so clearly somebody who's out to help people. And what it turns out is that she's actually a romi healer, which is a traditional Māori healing practice, massage and medicine practice. And she has 2, as you can see, she has 2 loops of mystery down in the lower part of the palm, down here on both hands. She had a big loop of mystery, and so had this fascination with the kind of occult and esoteric side of life all her childhood, from her childhood onwards. And more significantly, she had both a loop of good humor, a loop of seriousness, and a loop of charisma in the hand. And whilst we can understand the significance of the loop of playfulness, loop of seriousness quite easily, what I think is interesting to consider in this case is the sort of Māori apprehension of the loop of charisma. And in Māori culture, they have a concept called mana, which is the kind of like a chiefly quality that's given to chiefs who have a kind of high standing and a higher degree of honor and integrity. And that's exactly what this loop represents. We often call it the loop of leadership, but I think in the context of Māori culture, I think it can be called loop of mana. So she was quite blown away to see these potent symbols in her hand, of her knowledge and wisdom, and a positionality that she can have as a result of that in relationship to her community and the wider New Zealand society, by virtue of the loop of leadership she's got on the hand there. And I'm not sure if you can see this from the photograph, but she's actually got a very clearly, strongly formed minor airline as well, which you can see running from the earth line up towards the little finger. And that is often seen in the hands of people who have a very strong intuitive sense, or in her case, a clairaudient sense, for dealing with spirits and the ancestors, so that she can work with them when she's doing her healing work. So an extraordinary example to start the day with, and one which is fantastic to actually see straight away. So let's see if we can go back to the next one. Okay, so another handprint that we got here. This is an extraordinary hand. This is another woman's hand again. Also a large number of whorls. She had, let's look again. She had 4 whorls and a double loop on the thumb. And what is most noticeable about her is her earthy hand shape and fire quality skin texture. And this is the kind of hand that you'd often see for earth hand and fire skin texture in somebody like in the building trade, or a mechanic, or somebody in construction. And I was sort of saying all these things to her, and she said, "Oh, I work for Downers. I'm in the logistics for Downers." Downers is a major New Zealand construction company, and she does all the organising, all the logistics for that. And of course, that's a perfect thing to do with an earth, with a fire skin texture. But the organisation of materials, fire of earth, is exactly what you're going to get with someone with a fire skin texture on an earth hand like this. What's particularly notable is her the join between the air line and the earth line. You can see how long these two lines are joined for a really great degree within the palm, and that's really unusual, and clearly shows a very strong connection to family, a really strong connection to and the importance of the family to her in her life. And in fact, she's a Cook Islander, so that partly explains the sort of size and dimensions of the hand, but also, again, why family be very important to her. But in this particular case, she actually still lives. She's in her mid-30s, still lives with her parents. Her children live with her and they share a room in her parents' house. So her and her siblings all live with their parents on the property. So that's where they've been living most of her life. So family is incredibly important. She's incredibly tied in with her family. So I kind of said, and what about your husband? And she said, oh, well, he lives overseas. And of course, what you've got here, you've got a nice whorl on the little finger, classic indication of somebody who needs a lot of space in relationships. And one of the best ways for that to happen is for the partner to either live in a different town, or sometimes it can happen they live in a different country. There you go. You can see all the whorls on the fingerprints up there. So an incredibly strong, big woman, being a whirly person as a female in a very, very male environment in a construction company, doing all the organisation for them. I said, well, I bet you're the boss, aren't you? Look at that index finger. And she loves her work, and clearly also very sensitive as well. But the earthiness in this hand was kind of like particularly significant, and it's really rare to see a major airline tied to the major earth line to quite such a degree, just showing the strength and influence on the family upon her. All right, so let's see if we can find another one. And then this is the one I really wanted to focus on today. So this was a 65-year-old Māori woman, water skin texture, 5 whorls and 2 double loops and 3 more loops. So and lots of whorls again here, and very bendy thumbs, incredibly bendy thumbs, very top lines of thumb, really, really bendy. But what I want you to particularly notice here is how short, how diminutive the air finger is. This is probably the shortest air finger I've ever seen in my life. The interphalangeal creases at the lower phalange of the air finger is actually below the basal phalange of the fire finger, and the air finger almost only just makes it into the fire phalange. It's absolutely nowhere near. So that air finger should be about here. Obviously, where I'm moving the cursor, that's where the air finger should be coming up to, about that height there, to be in line with that crease there. This is an incredibly short, low set air finger, probably the most short low set air finger I've ever seen. And this is a woman who was one of 10 children in a Māori family. She was about the 4th, I think she said, who ended up having to look after her younger siblings. Sexual abuse was rampant in this family, and you can see that this is her passive hand. So what you can see there is the cumulative effects of intergenerational trauma, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse that's been happening in that family, and has presumably happened in that family for generations. Her active hand is not quite so. Air finger is not quite so short in the active hand, as you can see here, but it's still a short air finger. And so what you have here is a very quiet woman who's very humble, very kind of, her whole life has been in dedication to other people. She's been a cleaner and a carer, looking after her family and her children and her grandchildren. The whole life has been like that. Got a very strong cramp line on the hand as well. You can see that there coming in on the side there. But all she wants is a quiet life and an ease in her life, given the suffering that she's experienced in her life. But yeah, it's that is absolutely the shortest, lowest short low set air finger I've ever seen in my life. So it's a delicate topic, clearly, to be going into that sort of thing, but it's something that's important to consider sometimes when you're looking at hands. And the fourth handprint of the day was an Indian guy who had 6 whorls. So basically, it was a day of whorls. Everybody had large numbers of whorls in his whole day. He had an airskin tech who worked in IT, but he was a long fire finger and a double loop on the index finger. So clearly somebody who was not got a clear idea of his identity, but very sociable, very kind of giving a nice image, presenting a nice image of himself to the world. And another short air finger as well. So a short air finger in the hand of a male Indian, pointing again to difficulties in childhood relating to the women in his family. So there you go. The short low set air finger is a very potent indicator of family difficulties and situations and circumstances in childhood and family life that, of course, left their mark within the hands. These are trauma markings that we're seeing. We can't necessarily tell what the trauma is, but we can see what the response is. And one of the key trauma response markings is a short and low set air finger. So that's it for today. That's all I'm going to talk about today. Nice quick little video. Hope you enjoyed that. And don't forget to like and subscribe, tune in, and there's more coming this very soon. I've got a lot of videos that are in the pipeline. So tune in, settle down, enjoy.